Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and it's time. The first one of the, well, I want to say the new season, but we're not quite there yet, but technically it is. The first Celtic transfer talk of the new season is about to commence. I have been very excited to do this. I love the Celtic transfer talk series. Even though half of the transfer rumours we talk about are absolute nonsense, it still makes for some entertainment. This is a series that over the next few months I hope can be bigger and better than we usually do. I'm hoping to revamp it a little bit. I'm hoping to do it in a style that you might see some of the other kind of fan channels down south doing it like. I just want to have some fun with it, make it more constant, more consistent. But it's going to be fun nonetheless. Let the rumours begin. Roll the intro. That's something I also need to do. I need to get like a personalised intro for the Celtic Transfer Talk series because it deserves its own intro. It's a series that builds this channel during the summer. It's amazing. Look, a lot of people will probably be expecting me, and I actually wanted to do one myself, to do a video today focusing on the fan forum last night with Celtic, Dominic Mackay addressing some of the supporters. I'm not going to do that just now. We're going to talk about that in the podcast, which will be out over the weekend, the Celtic The Thunder phone-in. We're going to have some fans phoning in and giving their opinion around the club at the moment and some certain issues that they want to bring up. So I'm going to save that all for then. We could talk about the direction the club is heading in today. We're going to keep it a bit light-hearted, and we're going to try and talk about the future of the club on the park in terms of the recruitment this summer. The rumours are beginning. I mean, how much can you believe them? We know every year names come and go. Some names we see more often than others. Sometimes we hear the same players time and time again, year after year. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few months go, to say the least. How many times will we hear James McCarthy's name being brought up? I don't know. But we're going to talk about two players who have already been linked with season. Linked with what? We're going to talk about two players who have been linked with Celtic before this season has even finished. And two players which, you know what, I'm actually in favour for a signing. Before we go any further with the video, if you are new to the channel and you're new to the Celtic Transfer Talk series, make sure to hit the like button below to share out the content with other new visitors. And also, if you haven't already, press that big red subscribe button. It's free. You know, you can get all this content around football and Celtic for free just by pressing that button. No costs. Do it. It helps me. Right then, the first player we're going to talk about today is Kevin Nesbit of Hibs. Now, this was a kind of dual link that was that emerged last night. Some of the papers are throwing about that Celtic are apparently interested in two young Scottish players. Well, I say young for Kevin Nesbit. He's actually 24 now, which is still a young age. Right, okay, I feel, Christ, he's only 3 years older than me. Fucking hell. Two young Scottish players getting linked with the club in the one story. But we'll start off with Kevin Nesbit, who, as we know, has been absolutely tremendous for Hibs this season. And if you watch the Talk Scottish Football podcast with me and David, you'll know for a fact how big a fan David is of Kevin Nesbit. Kevin Nesbit's someone who's been on a bit of a catastrophic rise over the last couple of years, starting with the form that he had at Dunfermline last season and then carried on to Hibs this season. Now, Kevin Nesbit was actually linked with a move away from Hibs in the January transfer window. He was poised for a move to Birmingham down in the English Championship. It fell through. There was rumours and talk that Nesbit wasn't too happy about that, but he remained to stay at Hibs. He picked up form again at Hibs, and now towards the end of this season he has been once again their star man alongside Martin Boyle, and someone who's quite rightly going to attract interest from bigger and better clubs. Being the talisman for Hibs this season and gaining his first cap as well for Scotland, Kevin Nesbit has been instrumental to the success of Jack Ross's side. This season, 43 appearances in all competitions, 18 goals and 8 assists. He is someone who I think has got the sky's sort of the limit for Kevin Nesbit at the moment if he keeps playing to this form. And he's someone who I've spoke about over the last couple of months on the channel. I wouldn't necessarily mind him getting a move to Celtic. I think it could be an interesting one. But there's that situation now where you look at maybe someone like him and you look at someone like Odsonne Edouard and you go, is he quite that quality? Is he ready to come into the Celtic team and replace someone of Edouard's quality? Is he there yet? I personally don't think so, but I don't think that means we should completely disregard the signing of Kevin Nesbit if Celtic choose to explore it. We'll end up talking about both these players more as the transfer window goes on and properly begins, but Nesbit is a kind of striker who can do it all. He's been very, very good. He can shoot, he can play a good pass. As I've already said, he's got 8 assists this season. His overall game style is good for Scotland especially. I believe, he can get in close range and shoot. He can also shoot from range. He's good at making space and holding up the ball. I think he's a really good striker, and David is the one who obviously got me on to watching a bit more of Kevin Nesbit, but rightfully so, because he is a player who possesses a bit of everything. He's a bigger guy as well. He carries a bit to him. He's got a bit of physicality around his game, and we've seen that firsthand against Celtic. A lot of the times when you see Kevin Nesbit scored goals, he's brushing off opposition, and he's really good at that. He's someone who I think Celtic could be doing with, because time and time again this season, I think we've all complained at the lack of physicality in the Celtic team. So someone like Kevin Nesbit would be a good addition to that. And I think if you're looking at Edouard and Griffiths leaving the club, and obviously Kamara's left the club, we only have one striker left, and that's Ajeti. Now, I don't know what Ajeti's situation's going to be in terms of where he places in the squad or as a best striker or whatever, but Nesbit certainly wouldn't hurt the depth. It all comes down to the money that Hibs want. I believe Hibs were looking at a fee from Birmingham of around £2 million to maybe £3 million, so I'd imagine that stays the same. He's still under contract to 2024, which means I don't think they'll be willing to get rid of him for a cheap price. Hibs will know how good and how wanted he'll be around the whole of the country. That includes Scotland and England. I'm sure that even clubs like Rangers would like to look at Nesbit. So, you know what? I think it's one that, depending on the fee, we should probably look at making happen. He's got a lot of potential. I really like him, and no one's saying that he has to come in here and be the starting striker at Celtic, but he can certainly work towards that with years of development ahead of him. Now, the second player we have to talk about in this video is former Hearts left back and currently enjoying life in sunny Italy with Bologna. It is Aaron Hickey. He's made 11 appearances in the Serie A this season, before that making 34, 35 I think appearances with Hearts. He's someone who, once again, touted for the very, very top. Bit of a weird one, because he only went to Bologna last year. He's not been there that long, and now he's already getting linked with moves over to Scotland and England once again. I've seen his name linked with a few teams, but Celtic now, alongside Nesbit last night, is the team that have kind of risen to a bit of prominence. I like Hickey as well. If it was up to me, I would definitely be choosing Josh Doig as our left back next season if we could make that happen. I know, sign Nesbit and Doig. Why don't we just raid Hibs? Is that how we scout now? Is that how we recruit now? We just raid Hibs. But he's a player who I've got to see a lot more of. Adverse to Hickey, who I've not got to watch a lot of. I've not seen a lot of Bologna play football this season. From my understanding, Aaron Hickey has been rated very highly as a prospect. And like Doig, you've got to expect a very raw player. Aaron Hickey is incredibly young. He's still 18 years of age. Him and Doig would be coming in both the similar sort of territory, whereas they'd be probably struggling to break the first team in the first few months. It would take impressive performances with the few chances they would get to get in the team. Not because no one doesn't believe in them or anything, but they're very raw players. They're 18 years old. They would very much need a Kieran Tierney-esque run, I think, for any manager to kind of give them that chance straight away. Aaron Hickey is someone who, as well as Doig, could get a lot of development at Celtic, and I wouldn't knock back trying to get. Once again, though, when you're talking about money, are Bologna going to let a player who's contracted for another 3 years, who's only 18 years old and quite highly rated, leave for a lower kind of tiered fee? I'm not too sure. I don't see why they'd make it happen, but we certainly do need to look at the depth in the full-back areas. He's not picked up any goal contributions this season, Hickey, but for a team like Bologna, who are probably less off in the Serie A, and having to play a little more defensively, it is expected. And look, he's not been a constant starter either. He's been in and out the team. He's someone who's been touted for Scotland caps and everything. I think a lot of people would be in favour of signing Hickey. I think a lot of people were probably as well impressed with how he performed with his chances at Hearts when he was still in the country. So he's certainly somebody Celtic can look at. But is it just two names that we're seeing thrown in the air now with really no end result, as we usually do at points like this? I think at the end of the season, when players have been playing well that are especially Scottish, we start to see them getting linked with Celtic and Rangers, and there's really not a lot of substance to it. Nonetheless, the story reports that both Kevin Nesbit and Aaron Hickey have been presented, are ready to be presented as options for the incoming Eddie Howe. He will assess them, he will assess his other options, and he will ultimately make the decision of who and who shouldn't be signing for Celtic. Will they be the type of players Eddie Howe wants? We can only wait and see. What do you think? Would you take Nesbit and Hickey or one of the other at Celtic next season? I think if I was to say about any of them, I'd definitely take Nesbit. I really would. I don't think you could be too picky about it. He's had a very impressive season. Scores penalties, scores normal goals. He's just a good player. Just a good player. Normal goals, as if a goal isn't normal. What is that about, Ryan? Like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.